Often in manufacturing, there's a problem beneath the problem. Like there's something on the surface, and we got to kind of dig down to see what the real problem is. But sometimes that involves having an uncomfortable conversation, which in the past, I can certainly say that I've sat in silence or avoided that just because I didn't want to have that uncomfortable talk. My good friend Reggie Davis is on the show today and talking about his book, Better Together. Welcome, Reggie.
Hey, what's going on, Trevor? Glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad that I've got this book in my hands and that I've also been able to work with you the last few years and learn from you about this whole, what your company UpLift's really doing. And really, when I think about manufacturing, and we want more manufacturing in North America, we need more gen
Yeah,
younger people, more women, and just
great.
different sorts to kind of keep manufacturing growing in Canada and US. How are we going to do that, Reggie?
Man, it's a little work, right? But what we have to do is create the space, right? We want quality people, we want more people, we want the best people at the table, and we have to create that space where draw in as many capable, qualified individuals as possible.
And people want to talk about what's going on more and more. When I started at the Ford Motor Company in the 90s,
Yeah,
it was keep your head down. You don't get seen and you don't get
right.
yelled at because it was the boss's way. We're going to 2026 here, and it's not necessarily that way anymore.
Times have changed. We are evolving individually, but we're also evolving as a group of people. And, the old mantra of we don't talk about certain things, you leave it at the door or leave it at the gate. We're just at a different place in our world. And it's not to engage just for the sake of disruption, but how do we engage in a way that's healthy? And how do we create a space where people can engage, even when they disagree, right? Even when the conversations become uncomfortable? I truly believe that discomfort can be a sign for growth.
I wish I knew that 25 years ago because I tried to stay off that path. I want to make it clear for listeners, being better together is about having better safety. It's about less people getting hurt. It is about having better quality because we can understand the perspectives of others and find out more information. A lot of times when a bad part gets to a customer, somebody in the building knew something about it. And somehow we just weren't having a deeper conversation about it. And then that ties into productivity and profits, and that ties into job security. So this isn't just like, hey, let's have a better time together. This is like, hey, let's
Yeah,
be better together. Better people make better parts.
there you go. You look, Trevor, I'm better because we have spent time together.
Mm,
You've challenged me at times in the way that I've thought about things, but it's in that moment of that I call it the tension sometimes, right? A little tension, just like when we exercise with our muscles, breaking down the muscles and creating this tension so that it can actually become stronger. I believe the same thing happens with us as individuals that as we break down and we experience that discomfort, that tension, it's actually helping us to be better. And not only better individually, but better together. In the workplace, we see it all the time, even in the workplace with some of our clients. They would rather sometimes just let's don't have the conversation. Like, okay, you feel this way, I feel this way. Let's just do our jobs and go back home. And when we do that, we may actually get work done. We may
hmm
finish the job, the project, but I won't say we're better because of it. We just finished.
mm.
And to me, it's not just to finish. It's not just to hit the quotas or the numbers that we want to do in terms of productivity, but productivity with wins internally through those relationships, I believe even creates, to what you said earlier, a safer environment. When I feel like I can bring my whole self, and even though we may not agree, I can express it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
You'll listen, and then I can listen to you. That's emotional and psychological safety.
I've always thought if we have the same information, wouldn't we make a similar decision? The only reason you and I would really disagree on something is if we had different information.
We have different information, different experiences. We tend to live in general in this linear world.
Hmm.
And I just don't think we as human beings are that linear. Our experiences aren't that linear. And so you bring a different perspective that if I will keep an open mind and consider that your experience has been different than mine.
Hmm.
Doesn't make mine wrong. It doesn't make yours wrong either. They're just different. And now, as we spend time together talking and engaging, we might even create a third scenario.
Can be a sum of our experiences. So we may just disagree because we've had different experiences, but if I understand your experiences, maybe I can learn something from you to make a better decision for the company.
I think even as we talk through this now, we could have the same information, but because of our experiences, that information may be processed differently, right? You growing up in Canada, me
Mhm.
growing up in Arkansas, we could have the same information, but given that information and how we walked it out in life and through other relationships can impact how we process that.
So if we're doing an engineering change on the floor and someone's very apprehensive about making this change, a lot of times we just want to explain to the person, well, it's a good change, it's going to be fine because of X, Y, and Z. But instead, when I read your book and I think about your work, it's kind of like, okay, so what's behind you being apprehensive about the change? Like, what are your
Mm.
experiences that makes you not want to support this engineering change?
I shared at a book club discussion recently. I don't think we asked a simple question enough. Why? You can tell me how you feel about something, but if I don't ask that follow up question, why do you feel that way? I may really miss the root of what it is that's created that within you. And I walk away with my own assumptions versus
Hmm.
now digging a little deeper. And just let's be honest, even that asking the why now requires me to listen a little bit more, which may not be what I want to do.
Hmm.
Again, it goes back to the discomfort. If I just think about myself and be fully transparent, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the reasons why sometimes I don't want to ask the why or keep the conversation going is because selfishly I'm ready to move on.
I like,
To move on.
yeah.
This is going to require more energy of me, more thought of me, more thoughtfulness of me.
Hmm.
And I think people sometimes like me want to choose the easier route.
Yeah. And it's just that resistance, right? There's more resistance for the unknown.
Mm.
If I ask why, am I
Yeah.
ready for it? Do you actually say why? Because sometimes if you ask why, people can be defensive. Like, where's that coming from? Or what makes you think that way?
Yeah, I love that because the why can create a defensive mechanism within
Yeah.
people. My phrase is tell me more. Can you elaborate on
Yeah.
that?
It's a
Yeah.
good clarification, Reggie, for the listeners. Your internal heart is asking yourself why. But how we portray that, if we just say, tell me more, then you're just inviting to saying, hey, what? I'm going to give you space to kind of unpack that. And I'm telling you that I actually want to hear more.
Yeah.
And not
And
everybody, not that's not common.
well, and what I've learned is when I say those three words, tell me more, people are willing to respond. It has been so infrequent and rare that someone goes, I really don't have much else to say.
when when someone hands us on a topic that we're passionate about it and you say, tell me more, like, heck yeah, you ready for this?
And I usually like, hey, I'm ready. Come on, let me
Yeah.
hear it.
For the listeners, here's a quote from your book that I really liked. I believe that most human beings tend to gravitate towards conditions that minimize effort, reduce risk, and provide certainty more than we recognize. Dude, like so good. You could stop listening to the podcast and just kind of like, okay, yeah. So where am I just minimizing effort? Right. Because sometimes it's like getting out of the bed to go to the gym in the morning. I'm warm underneath the covers, but I want that discomfort because I want to get through the gym. I just had a hard time. It took me a long time to get that courage to be uncomfortable with what that person could say. So you work with manufacturing plants. What are some wins that would be helpful for a listener to hear in application, safety, quality, productivity?
I will say this. You know me now at this point. I love connecting people. I love creating harmony and unity. But that was actually one of the that I struggle with that because I wanted unity so bad that I would not lean into discomfort, even though I wanted to bring people together.
Mm.
I would back away if I felt like it would create any tension in the manufacturing world with our clients. I think back to recently, we were at a plant, a company. I'm talking about microaggressions, right? So,
Hmm.
one, I know that word sometimes has already been defined a certain way, or it creates some angst in people. And
Yeah.
so we don't even call it microaggressions, even though we get into microaggressions, we call it sticks and stones. Most of us know that old little rhyme that we did as kids: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that
Hmm.
is so untrue, because I've been hurt more by words than anybody's hands in my
Uh,
life, right?
Absolutely.
And so we're talking about microaggressions. You could feel the tension a little bit in the room. And again, I kept leaning in, but trying to be aware of. So we give an example, and we said, here's one example of when someone who might be an immigrant or whose parents were not born in this country,
Hmm.
they have a name that may not be as common as Trevor or John or Reggie, and it may be a little harder to pronounce.
Hmm.
And we give that person a nickname or a shortened name. And it comes from a good place, right? So we're not saying the person who does that is a bad person. It's coming from a good place because they don't want to mispronounce someone's name. But when we do it without their permission, that's when we marginalize a person, even unintentionally. So we
Mm.
finish up the session. And at the end, where I usually ask people, do you have any thoughts, comments, or even pushbacks? One of the members of the team raises his hand and he says, Reggie, I got something to share. I'm not going to be a coward. I'm going to get this off my chest. So I said, okay.
Tell me more.
But he said, basically, there's a guy on my team. He's been on my team for 4 years. His name is Enrique. And after meeting him and he shared his name with me, I said, hey, we're going to call you Ricky. Is that okay? And the guy said, sure. And he said, I never once thought about what I was doing to him.
Mm.
I just thought, like, Enrique may be a little challenging for me and the rest of the team. So let's just give him a name that everybody will be comfortable in.
More comfortable.
So that's just an example of a moment where I saw the discomfort and comfort happening from all different angles. That would have been an uncomfortable conversation for me to have some years ago. But now I've learned to lean in and engage with respect to the individuals that I'm leaning into. And with me leaning in, possibly creating some discomfort for them, one of the participants leaned in and received that discomfort, but said, and he said, when we leave this training session, I'm going to him and I'm going to apologize and I'm going to insist that we change his name tag on his shirt and we start calling him Enrique.
Hmm.
And I said, now how do you think Enrique is going to feel after this? He said, probably more valued and empowered. For me, looking for those moments, right, that might
Yeah.
create some discomfort, but ultimately, I think it made that individual in the space better. I think it's going to make Enrique better. I think it's going to make them better.
Together. Amen. And that's the whole thing, right? Is I hope if you're driving to work, you're listening to this, it's like
Mhm.
connecting the dots. Like what you just did was connect the dots. You asked him, and he said he's probably going to feel more valued and more engaged. Do we need to hire more people, or do we need to look at how we're showing up and how we're engaging the
Mm,
people that we have? It's not about getting more out of people, but you're leaving money on the table,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like there's people in your building right now. We're talking about like we're not going to have enough people to fill the spots. But my belief is that it's not the automation that's going to eliminate they're going to have less jobs, but it's just getting more of the people that we have. We can
yeah,
pay them more, right? Like
yeah,
you can get paid
yeah,
more, you can make more profits as a company. It doesn't take capital investment. It doesn't take technology. It takes new generation learning and thinking of just human skills. That's going to
yeah,
get you your biggest ROI. We're sitting meetings over cost savings all day and trying to find out how to bend over a supplier to get them to, we have to pay less money when we could probably be investing into, hey, but what about inside our own four walls?
That's right. I am still a firm believer. I still think the greatest resource of any company is the human resource. And when we invest in that, people being the best versions of themselves, Rosalind Carter, I'm not going to say her quote perfectly, but her quote is, good leaders take people where they want to go. Great leaders take people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. If you're going to do that, you're going to experience discomfort. Taking people where they ought to be. It's very rare that I've come in contact with someone who doesn't want to be a good person or who doesn't try to be good. Most people do. There are these moments of the desire to be good and now being confronted with something that makes me not feel good. That is discomfort. Here I am
Mm.
working hard to be a good person, and now you bring something to my mind that makes me potentially not feel good. What do we do in those moments, right? Do we lean in? Do we explore? Kim and I are thinking about writing a whole book on this around marriage and couples because I've learned more from leaning in to that discomfort with her as my partner in life and my wife than any other relationship. It's taught me how to engage better in the workplace, in my social environment with friends and family. But it is leaning into that challenge of when I work hard to be a good person, and now I'm confronted with something that may say, maybe that's not so good. I think we struggle with now that's part of who I am. It's a part of who you are. It's not all of who you are.
When I think about my career and the time around 9/11 and the stereotype of Muslims and foreigners, it wasn't long after that, a good friend of mine that I just called on his birthday recently had him. I just remember talking to him like, man, so what's the deal with bacon? Like you don't
Mm,
like help me understand that. He's just such a good soul. And I just wanted to learn more about him. And when it came to working together, whatever he asked me to do, I would do for him. I got to appreciate him at a different level. I know that like he saw the value in me, I saw the value in him. We made each other
mm.
better from different backgrounds. I found myself even in family situations not being very silent when it came to some stereotypical comments. And then it
Yes.
was like, okay, and then it felt good, right? Because it's kind of like, don't paint this race or religion with a brush. Canada's, my favorite lead singer, Gord Downie, tragically hip, talked a lot about the indigenous sins
Mm,
of Canadians, right? Like, don't worry
mm,
about the other countries, worry about what we did here. And now we have a reconciliation day, right? And
mm.
it's kind of like, okay, so nobody wants to talk about that. We want to talk about new music, sports.
Yeah, yeah,
That's one thing that I
right.
took away from reading your book too, Reggie. And it's something that I've had to work on personally is that I do enjoy sports. You and I just talked about Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota Vikings, but
Yeah,
90% of our conversations have much more substance. And I
yeah.
think that's what I really take out of embracing the discomfort of difference in your book is just let's embrace it and you become a
Yeah.
better version of yourself.
Well, look, I want to ask you a question. You spoke about your friend after 9/11 that you asked him, what's up with bacon, right? Because I think this happens a lot where people will say, how do I lean into that conversation? How do I not offend someone? I'm afraid of even asking the wrong question.
Yes.
So, as someone who decided I'm going to lean in here, what prompted it? And even as you did it, how did you feel in the moment?
Well, I prefaced it, right? Like just with the fact of, hey, I'm just not educated.
Mm,
I'm not educated on certain religions and backgrounds. And he was this type of person that would make you feel safe, right? And he's just very transparent. So I think he definitely made the invitation easier for me because it was
mm,
like, okay, he's somebody I can ask. And I didn't have a fear of retribution and being judged because I don't know better. And I didn't put the humor in there, but he knew it was coming from like, no, this dude like just doesn't know and wants to learn. And I think just having a little bit of foundation of respect for each other. And he knew
mm.
like I was more like, can you help me? Can you help me understand? Because when I hear other people saying comments that are not true and they just don't know, then it's like, I'd like to be able to not sit in silence. It's nothing I thought about reading your book is that I've sat in silence too many times just because I didn't
Mm.
know what to say. It just kind of eventually gives me the confidence.
I love that because I hear humility. I don't know. I'm not educated. That requires humility. But I also heard you talk about that there was at least a foundation of a relationship there, right?
Yeah.
You weren't coming in hot calling. There was a foundation there. That's a great point for the listeners to hear in terms of that. Like when you cultivate, right? At some
Mhm.
level, some form of cultivation in a relationship, it will give you the opportunity to continue to develop that.
Yeah, that's a whole better together. Reggie, what do you want to leave? The link to your book's going to be on my website. I did my own book review on it, what I took away from it. We'll put the links in there. What's the message you want people to be left with today?
Don't be afraid. Don't be apprehensive around our differences. Our differences can be as beautiful as the colors of a rainbow. In workplaces, we want to keep it very professional and yes, stay professional. But when we spend most of our time with the people we work with, we're missing out when we don't take advantage of that time, right? Look, I've been in a working career for 25 years now, at least. I promise you, I have spent more alert time with the people I work with than even my family and loved ones. How valuable could it be that we not just go to work with people, but we go to this place that we do a job, but we have relationships and we engage and we lean in and we build trust, even around the things that we don't see eye to eye on, right? But can I try to understand even when I don't agree? And so
Mm.
that's what I want to leave listeners with. If we can have the spirit of trying to understand others, even when we don't agree with them, I think our world will be better and we'll be better together.
Oh, Reggie, so good. And I hope that there's people, not just one, but multiple, that maybe was just going in today to get a job done,
Mm,
or then get back to their families and maybe just look at each other a little bit different. And manufacturing will be just fine if we all
mm,
start leaning into that discomfort. I do have to throw it there. If you want more Reggie, you want to see where him and I were 3 years ago on episode 72, with the links in
wow.
the note. So Reggie, every conversation, I'm a better version of myself. Every time I talk to you, keep spreading it, get the book, and keep doing what you're doing.
The feeling is mutual, my friend. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.